Hey, so just after me showing you guys me getting the garden storm ready, in last week's video our first typhoon of the season hit, so let's have a look around and see how the garden did, what's been damaged if anything, and then I thought we'd have a look at what I am going to be putting in here for spring and going through some of the changes that I'm making in the garden for next season. For anyone that doesn't know, my name is Peggy and I am in my second year of growing a cut flower garden here on my allotment in Kanagawa Prefecture, Japan, which is just south of Tokyo in USDA Zone 9B. Thanks for checking out my channel. Okay, I'm down here in the evening because it is still really hot during the day, but that means it's mosquito o'clock, so mosquito nets on. But let's have a look. So on Friday we had our first typhoon. Now it wasn't a full typhoon because it didn't actually make landfall in Japan, it was just the tail end of the typhoon, so it wasn't really bad. We just basically had Friday. I mean, schools were cancelled, the local council was saying don't go out if you don't need to because the roads were flooded, but it was basically just a lot of rain and some really strong winds. So luckily I'd got the garden ready for that just in time because it's fared pretty well. So I already had 2 layers of support netting here on my dahlia, and then I decided to put this crisscross of string in to try and corral them, and that's done really well except for this, which was actually the tallest of my dahlia, which has come down a little bit, and a few others are looking like they've been knocked around a bit down this end also. They're kind of a bit twisted and squint and kind of growing all over the place, so I need to tidy those up a little bit. I'm getting a bit worried about these. I was hoping I was going to get a second flush on them, and they are kind of putting out new leaves, but a lot of them are starting to go yellow and the buds are browning as well. So I don't know if these are actually just giving up the ghost, and I'm not going to get that much more. I mean, the fact that I do have a flower on this one gives me some confidence that I'm going to get some back, but some of the others which started blooming earlier, this is the one that was giving me the nice big purple dahlia, and it was one of the first to flower. Looks like maybe it's not going to come back. And this is it getting ready to be done for the season, which is a little sad because we don't have our first frost for a long time yet. So I was hoping I would get more from these. I mean, there are still buds coming on these ones. My zinnia are blooming away and looking absolutely great, and I've got so many of these to cut, which I'm really excited about, but you can see which direction the wind was coming. They're all just slightly at this kind of angle, but none of them seem to have been broken, so that's great news. I'm just going to have to pull them all back this way a little because they are now leaning over into this row. Not that I have anything in this row, but they are leaning over a bit. My super twisty amaranth, helter skelter amaranth, did okay with the exception of this one bit which has fallen. That's a full loop, which has fallen down, and I'll try and get that back up. And it has righted itself a little bit, righted itself, whatever, in that it is now this way and is trying to stretch for the sun, but it also looks like something has started to eat it, which is a little disappointing. But that didn't do so bad. These are my pink pokers, which I cut right back, and they are still getting some, so I might get a second flush on these as well, which is great news because I really like them. But because I cut them down short, they didn't get damaged at all. My chrysanthemum I had individually staked, and they're looking great and starting to bloom here. And my straw flower, I pulled the netting up on them and then corralled them again around the bottom with the crisscross, and most of them did okay, although this one seems to have fallen out from the side. And again, you can see the wind was pulling that way, so it has actually pulled the netting that way. Everything's kind of leaning this way a little bit and pulled the netting, which is why I think these two have just popped out because they were right on the edge. But again, these are all getting really nice and fat and ready to harvest, and I'm really looking forward to them. It's going to be pretty. But that was basically it. And I think the storm actually did more good than harm because everything got a really nice drink, and I think really appreciated a nice soak of water. And you can see that was on Friday and we're now on Sunday, and you can see the ground is still wet, which for this, which is quite a sandy soil, is really rare. It's usually like dust, so it's actually quite nice to see that it's still looking so wet. Some kind of twisty zinnia. Let's see what I can do with them. I am starting to get powdery mildew on my zinnia, which is a bit worrying, so I'm going to have to bring down some more milk to try and get that sorted, because I do want them to go on a bit longer into the season, so that if my dahlia do come back, I've got something to pair them with. If you didn't watch my videos before, I had powdery mildew on my dahlia at the beginning of the season, and I completely fixed it using just a milk and water solution. So there's a video back about treating powdery mildew with milk, and it worked so well that I'm just going to try it again on my zinnia and see if I can keep that at bay until a bit later in the season. But my Art Deco zinnia seem to have really liked the rain, and they're the ones that have come up the most this week, so hopefully with the weather cooling down I might still get a bit more out of this garden. But basically things are starting to come to an end. I mean, if you look down at the allotment, you can see I've already got quite a lot of bare spaces and places to put things, so it's time to start thinking about what I'm going to be putting in for spring. And I know that a lot of people, I'm in zone 9B, which is warm, so I'm holding off a little bit, but I know that a lot of you will be starting to plant your autumn bulbs and start autumn seedlings. And I've learned some things from last year that means I'm going to be doing things a little bit different than I did last year. First of all, my sweet pea were a disaster this year. They started off really well, and then I put them in the ground and they all died off. And speaking to my allotment neighbours, I found that everyone just direct seeds. They don't start them at home, they just put them in the ground and they come up really well. So I'm planning on doing that this year. The problem I'm having is that I can't really find any sweet pea that I like. So before I was getting my sweet pea from Chiltern Seeds, and then I had the problem with immigration in Japan not letting seeds come in from abroad without having a photo something. Anyway, I needed a special license to do it, which obviously I don't have, so I can't do that anymore, which means I'm really restricted to what I can get. And I mean, I got these just at the local shop, but I mean, I don't even know what they're going to look like. Like, they put these little sparkly bits all over the pictures like kira kira. So I don't know what they're actually going to be, but they look kind of like just bog standard sweet pea. And I found that on the website that I was buying my stuff from in Japan, Taki Seeds, they don't really have many of the nice frilly fancy ones at all. Now, I did see that, I was checking this afternoon, and I see that they've put a few more up and they're a bit nicer, or at least the colours are a bit more interesting. So I might get those, but this year I'm going to direct seed these, and I'm going to move where they were in the garden. So I had them at the back of the garden here because they were really tall and I didn't want them shading anything out. But my plum trees here, not my plum trees, but they grow over, haven't been cut in a really long time. As you can see, they're really big now, and they are shading out my garden, and I think that really was detrimental to my sweet pea. They were searching for the sun and they just couldn't find it. So this year I'm going to put them at the front of the garden, because by the time everything else comes that they might shade out, they're going to be hopefully past it and gone. So I'm moving these to the front of the garden, and I'm going to direct seed these. So the first thing that I had flowering my garden this year were my anemone, and I really liked them. It was the first year I'd grown an anemone, and I really liked them, and it was just kind of a mix like this that I had. So I bought some more of these. They're not very big, but you know, got some of them. And then I found some kind of cute frillier ones, which are basically the same colours but a bit frilly. And then from the ones I grew last year, there was one that really stood out as just being a much more intense colour that was really beautiful, which was these ones. So I've bought a little pack. I mean, literally there's only 4 corms in here. But I bought some more of these, which were really nice. Now, last year I planted these at the same time as my ranunculus, and I actually had my first flower come up on December 27th was when I cut my first one of these. But the majority of them came up in February. I think February 23rd, I think, was around when I took my first full cut of these and started making arrangements. The problem was, even though I'd started them at the same time as the ranunculus, I didn't take my first cut of ranunculus until a full month later, on March 23rd. So I didn't have anything to pair them with. I was just making little kind of displays of just anemone. So So this year I'm going to do these a bit different. Now, I do pre-soak and pre-sprout these, and like I say, last year I did them both on the same day and put them all in and got them all started at the same time. But this year I'm going to start my ranunculus a little bit earlier and hold off on these and leave these a few weeks later, and see if that makes a difference, because I would like to be able to pair them with other things. My ranunculus are here somewhere. Here, so weirdly, a lot of the stuff I managed to dig up the bulbs and want to use again this year, I couldn't find any of my anemone bulbs. I don't know where they went. So I don't know if they're going to come up by themselves or if they've all just disappeared. Don't know. So that'll be a nice surprise this spring to see if I get any of them. My ranunculus that I dug up, they looked really good when I dug them up. And now that they've all kind of really, I mean, obviously they're dehydrated, but they're all looking really, really small. That one's not too bad. So I know that actual flower farmers tend to just buy new ranunculus corms every year to make sure they're getting the best flowers. And I can kind of see why, because I mean, I'm not sure if I'm actually going to get anything off of these. They're all looking pretty crispy. Now obviously I'll rehydrate these and pre-sprout them and hopefully be able to get something off of them. So I'm hoping that they're going to come back up. But I will do a little experiment where I'll get new corms and I'll plant the old corms on one end of the garden, well, one end of the row, and my new corms on the other, and have quite a clear divide so I can see how these are compared to the new ones. The problem is I don't yet have any new ones because, again, I can't really find any that I like. You know, I follow all these beautiful flower farms in America, and they're growing all these really beautiful colours and kind of different types of ranunculus, and here I just can't get those. It's really basic and I'm not loving them. They're like bright red and bright orange or just plain white. And then the ones that are kind of the variated colours, I don't know, they're kind of white with the purple around the edge, which just reminds me of a little cabbage or something. You know, it's not really, oh, that's a beautiful ranunculus. I have found one place where I can buy the kind of salmon pink, it's the salmon rose one, which is beautiful, but they're so expensive. And you only get 5 corm in the bag. And I kind of think, well, how many flowers am I really going to get off of 5 corm? But I guess some is better than none. So I don't know. I'm still debating this in my head. And again, I'm not going to start these for a while yet. So I still have some time to think about it. But I will be doing an experiment to see how these older corms do compared to the younger corms. And I'll make a video about that as well. So that's my anemone and ranunculus. And the next thing that came up, which came up at the same time as my ranunculus, was my freesia. And I loved them. I know that freesia are quite a simple flower and you don't really think of them as being overly fancy, but they were so nice and they smelled beautiful. Now, I know that a lot of spring flowers smell nice and are known for smelling nice, but some of them, especially the daffodil, the paper whites, the narcissus, are just so overpowering. And I have quite a small house and I tend to put all my flowers in the genkan, which is like the Japanese porch. So as soon as you come in the door, it's this kind of small confined area, and those flowers can very quickly become really overpowering. But the freesia, they never did. They always just smelled nice. They were so nice, and they had a really good vase life. I was really surprised at their vase life. So I've managed to dig up some of those bulbs, which I have in my wee bag here, freesia. So I've got quite a lot of those left over from last year. Woo, they're falling out the bag. And you can see they've started to develop little side bulbs as well, which is nice. I mean, some of them have made like a proper wee family. So I'm hoping that they're going to come up and give me lots of nice freesia. But I like them so much that I went out and bought some more as well. So these were the ones that I grew last year, exactly the same. Oh my God, I got so many. They're not expensive. This is what I want my ranunculus and my other flowers to come in big bags like this, not 2 or 3 bulbs at a time. Like, what use is that? 2 or 3 bulbs. Anyway, these are the normal ones, just in a coloured mix. These are the doubles, which were very pretty last year. And then just today, I did buy some slightly more expensive ones. There's a helicopter going over me. I did buy some slightly more expensive ones just because they were kind of prettier colours. So this was a really nice kind of white and lavender colour, and then this kind of peachy yellow, and these are kind of really fancy doubly ones as well. But again, you can see these were 400 yen and you get 5 bulbs in them. In fact, this one was 400 yen and you get 3 bulbs in them. So I mean, that's expensive. Yeah, that's expensive. 3 bulbs for 400 yen. That's pretty insane. They better be pretty. They better be pretty at that price. So then, talking about expensive bulbs, next I have daffodils. Now, I have these daffodil bulbs left over from last year, which I dug up again. And I mean, some of them are pretty beastly. You know, nice big ones. And these seem to have kept pretty well as well. I keep going to buy daffodils. Now, I did a video about visiting Seattle's Pike Place Market. And I was there at tulip and daffodil season, and the daffodils were so beautiful, and there were so many weird ones, and I love weird flowers. You know, just so many with like multiple heads on them, or kind of white and orange and kind of liony looking. They were great. I loved them. And I found those here. The problem is they're like 600 to 900 yen for 2 bulbs. Now 2 bulbs is 2 flowers. That's like $5 a flower. That's insane. It's just insane. And I know that daffodil are kind of an investment because you will get more bulbs as the years go on. But realistically, 2 bulbs, you're looking, I mean, people say you can look at like a 25% increase of your bulbs every year from daffodils. They're quite prolific. But that means that I've got this garden for 4 years. I'm already a year into it. That's 3 years I've got left on here. So if I leave these daffodils in the ground at 25%, I'm going to have, at the end of those 4 years, instead of 2 bulbs, 3 and a bit bulbs, 4 if I'm lucky. You know, that's still not a lot of flower. And you're only getting 1 flower, sometimes 2, from each bulb if you're lucky. And I just can't justify the cost. Now, as well as this, I'm from Aberdeen. I grew up in Aberdeen. And Aberdeen in Scotland is daffodil country. And, you know, I'm used to fields and fields of daffodils. There's literally a cooperative of farmers in Aberdeen that have all got together to grow and produce daffodils for the bulbs. So, you know, daffodils are everywhere. The council has them everywhere. Every roundabout is covered in daffodils. Every roadside on the way into the city is covered in daffodils. And there are literally fields of daffodils everywhere. And so, to me, they're quite a common flower, and they're quite a cheap flower, and your bulbs are cheap. They're not 900 yen for 2 bulbs. So yeah, the Aberdonian in me is saying, no, I don't think so. And I keep hunting around thinking I'm going to find them cheaper somewhere, but I can't. Everywhere I'm looking, it's the same. And I think it's because they're coming from the same few producers, so they're the same price. So I'm not sure what I'm going to do about daffodils. I've got them marked down in my plan that they're going to be there. And I've got these ones, but there's not very many. There's maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10. I think he's impressed with his motorbike. There we go. Yeah, I've maybe got about 12 bulbs in this bag, which isn't very many. And I don't know how many are going to go. I mean, I really like them. I like them. And part of me wants to buy them, but yeah, I don't know. I've still got to juggle the cost and worthness there. Don't know. Anyway, after daffodils, I'm going to have more gladiola. Now, if you watch my video from a few weeks ago, you'll see me digging up my glads, and I loved these this year. They were so beautiful, and I have masses of them. So many. This is my big bulb bag, and this is my wee bulb bag that I'm not sure if I'm going to get very many flowers off of, but hopefully I will the following year. So I'm not going to buy any more glads, just going to put these back in the ground and have heaps of gladiator. I'm really happy with that. I've also got, what else have I got? Some allium that I bought. Now, these aren't the huge big ones because they're just too big for the kind of arranging that I'm doing. So these are more kind of side, kind of ornamentally ones. But they're kind of cute. And I've just got a few of them to put in some of the spaces. Now, I am overstocking my garden this year because I ended up with so many things that didn't start and didn't work, and I'm fed up of having wasted space. It's such a small garden. It's only 4 by 5. And when you see a blank space where a row of something didn't come up, it breaks your heart. So I've bought more, and I'm going to start more than I need of different varieties. And then if there's a space, I'll just whap something in. So this is actually going where these few white zinnia are, right here, because in the spring my echinacea and my orangium start to come up here, and then I've got bunny tails there as well, and there's just this tiny little corner here that I can usually get like 1 plant in, but I'm going to put these bulbs in there instead and have just wee clusters of these just to fill up that space and make sure that I'm using every part of the garden. So I've got them to go in. I am going to try lupin this year. Now, I'm not a big fan of lupin, but I've seen some other people grow them and they look quite nice. And I quite like the colours of these ones. They're not the really bright ones. I really like that kind of smoky grey one there. So I'm going to try some of these, see if I can get them to germinate and get some of these in the garden. And then of course I've got my stock again. Now I learned last year I cannot grow spring seeded stock here. The spring is not long enough in the cool spring. We go from cold to roasting hot way too fast, so everything is going to be fall planted this year. So I have so many different stock because I just kept buying it. This is the vintage brown that I had last year that I really liked, although I didn't get very many of them. These are kind of all the soft kind of pastel-y springy colours. I've got the apricot stock, which is what I grew last year and really loved. And then I've got some of the other ones that I just had left over from last year. I've got this yellow field stock, and this, I think this is apple blossom, which didn't come up because I had them planted too late. So I'm really looking forward to getting them back in the ground and having stock. And this stuff smells so nice. You know, you hear people saying, oh, stock smells lovely, and you think it's going to smell like all the other spring flowers that are kind of really sweet, kind of sickly sweet smell, especially with the daffodil. But it doesn't. It smells spicy, almost like cinnamon or cardamom or something. It's really lovely. I liked that a lot. It was just a weird smell and I liked that. Another problem flower, poppy. Now I had poppy in the garden last year, and it was California poppy that I put in, the jelly bean ones, and I didn't like them. There was one or two kind of white ones that came up that I really liked, but the others I didn't like. The pink ones that came up were just kind of really basic pink, and they lost their petals really fast, and the other ones were like traffic cone orange. Not my bag. But I did like when I had the poppies. They came up pretty early, so I could have them in that kind of weird in-between time when my freesia and anemone and stuff had stopped, but none of my summer flowers had started. It was just kind of giving me something to play with, and I really liked that. So I wanted to put more poppy in the garden. Problem is, I live in Japan, and there are really strict rules about poppy, and you kind of forget that different countries have different rules and why they have them. So to us, the opium wars seem like a really long time ago, but they still have laws against it, against the types of poppy you can grow, because the opium wars had such a massive effect on China and Japan. And so I cannot grow anything that could potentially be used to make opium. So a lot of the other growers I see grow the likes of breadseed poppy. Breadseed poppy are lovely, but more importantly, they make really big, nice seed pod heads that you can use for dried flowers. Unfortunately, those seed pod heads also make really nice opium, apparently. So I'm not allowed to grow those. It is illegal to grow those in Japan. And there are rules about what you can grow and what you can't grow, but the rules are not very clear. And the names of some of the flowers are quite hard to translate and figure out which ones I'm allowed and which ones I'm not allowed. So I'm going with the idea that the ones that they're selling from Japanese growers in the garden centre, I'm allowed. Unfortunately, there's not much option. I have two of the same. So I have found some online that I'm going to try and grow, but I need to research it a little bit more because I don't want to be arrested for growing opium. Then I also have my snapdragon, and again, I had nicer snapdragon last year because I got them from abroad, but this year I'm not allowed to do that, so I'm restricted to what I can get here. And they're really into their peaches and pastels and blah. I like the much darker ones, and my Potomac ones last year were so nice, and they have like a Potomac raspberry ripple that I really wanted to grow, but alas, I'm not going to get them. But these are the same as my stock, and I now know that all of these have to be fall planted because they don't have time to grow in spring. So I'm going to get these started pretty soon to get them going. I mean, that purple is quite nice. That's kind of a weird purple, and I guess it'll pair nicely with some of the freesia and stuff if I can get them going at the same time. And these are kind of the more kind of frilly, fancier ones. But again, I mean, I'm putting them in because they're nice. Those ones are kind of nicer. I can't get that to focus. I'm putting them in to have flowers, but I'm not overly excited about them, which is a bit sad. Yeah. And that leaves tulips. Tulips. Next to daffodil on the things that are stupidly expensive to buy is tulips. So I put tulips in the garden last year and I really liked them. They were so pretty. I had so many of the peony type ones, which I've decided are my favourite. And and they were lovely. But straight after spring here we go into rainy season, and my tulip hadn't died back enough for me to dig them up before rainy season hit, and then a lot of my bulbs rotted in the ground, and I didn't realise that until I went to dig them up once the weather had dried off a bit. So I've actually lost a lot of my tulips. I've not lost all of them, there's still quite a lot in there. There's actually more than I thought there was. I have to go through and count them. Some of them are quite small. Some of them I'm still not sure how well they're going to do. Like, this is like a Russian doll. It just keeps getting smaller and smaller. In fact, I think that one's gone. So yeah, I'm not sure how many I'm actually going to get out of this bag. So I have started to buy more, but again, they're really expensive, especially for the ones that I want. I have found some though. So the ones I liked last year were these ones, which were the kind of really dark black. They're called the black hero. Yeah, the black hero ones, which are the peony types, and this is 2 sets of them. But as you can see, again, it's 500 yen, almost 500 yen for 5 bulbs. So that's 100 yen a bulb, which is quite expensive. And then I got some of the other peony ones. I grew these last year as well, this kind of same colour, and they were really, really pretty, and they almost looked like water lily when they came up. I loved them. So I've got some of them, but again, it's only 5 bulbs. I found these, which are really pretty, kind of rare. I don't think I've seen kind of that nice lilac-y colour. It seems that this lilac-y colour has somehow made its way in as my new colour choice. I don't... That's been sneaky what's happened, but there you go. Hopefully they'll all come up and match each other. But yeah, this is this kind of nice lavendery, violet-y colour. But again, only 4 bulbs, and 1 tulip is 1 bulb, so they better come up nice. This is slightly more bright pink, just because it was one of the few ones I could get in the nice peony one, and again, only 5. And then this is a mix of softer pinks and a kind of orange. Now the one I really want to be growing this year is the copper. I found a nice peony style copper tulip, and I really want to grow it, and I cannot because it's too expensive. It is like 10 yen, 1,000 yen for 3 bulbs, 2 bulbs, not even. I mean, that's insane. It's insane. So yeah, this was pretty close to the coppery colour. It's a lot more peach, to be honest, but I'm fooling myself into thinking, yeah, that's kind of the same. But again, this was 700 yen for 6 bulbs, so you're looking at more than 100 yen per bulb, which is bloody expensive. So that's all I've got for now. So I'm still looking for some nice ranunculus to put in. I'm still figuring out what poppy I can put in. I'm holding off on buying any more tulips than this, mainly because oh, I missed one. Look, there's another kind of soft pinky purpley orangey. What colour is that? I'm gonna go with baby pinky purple. It looks more orange in the camera, but it's not. Again, 5. I'm holding off buying more tulip because last year I actually got a really big bag of nice, it was like 25 bulbs, I think, at Costco. Yeah, we have Costco here. So I'm hoping that they're going to have that again, and I'll just nip along later around Christmas time and see if I can pick up another big bag of bulbs from them, because they were the really nice peony ones. Again, I got some pinky purple ones and I got some yellowy peach ones, which were really nice. So I'm hoping that that will kind of fill out my tulip patch this year. I will not be putting my tulips in the ground until much later on. Last year I put them in November, but last year was colder. I'm not putting them in for 2 reasons. One is that they're going where my dahlia are, and these aren't anywhere near dying down yet. So I've got to wait for these to start to die back once the cold has set in a little bit. But also, all of the other bulbs can kind of go in when it's still quite warm. Tulips don't like being in warm soil at all. You really want to wait until it's cooled down before you put those in, because they don't like it. So they'll be the last things that I put in the ground. But that is basically it, I think, for my spring lot. I will be doing this and then also starting my summer flowers at home as well, and just keeping them in my pods so that when these guys are done I can redo the garden. And I've had quite a hard time figuring out the timings of when everything's going to bloom and when everything needs to be in the ground, because it is a small garden, so I am going to have to overlap. And last year I didn't do very well at taking things out at the right time. The likes of my stock should have been out a long time ago, but they didn't do well and I was quite upset about it, and so I left them in hoping that when it cooled down I might get a kind of autumn go at them. and that didn't happen because they got fried in the sun. But before they got fried in the sun, they were a great place for the little red Japanese beetle to hang out during the day when it was hot, and then they'd come out at night and eat all my aster. So I should have pulled them up straight away. I should have just said, these are done, they're not going to happen, pull them up. So I do have to get a bit more ruthless in my garden and figure out when's the right time to be pulling certain things out to put the next lot of things in. And as I said, I am going to overstock the garden this year. That doesn't mean I'm going to overcrowd, because my garden doesn't do well when I plant things too far together. It just means I'm going to have a lot of stuff in trays at home, so that when something is not doing well, I have something to replace it with. That's the plan, anyway. So, zinnia are doing okay, but I need to treat them for a powdery mildew. Hoping my dahlia are going to give me a second flush, but they are starting to yellow, so I'm not sure if that's going to happen. My chrysanthemum are getting ready, my helichrysum are getting ready to come, so I hopefully will have something. I did put in some other cosmos seeds just the other day, and I've noticed that they've germinated as well. I've got more of my ornamental cabbage coming on, but it is not germinating as evenly as I would like it to, so I'm not sure how many of them I'm going to have either, or if they're going to come up in time. I might have nothing else in the garden and have like a big bouquet of cabbage. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know what's going to happen there. Hopefully my amaranth will come up at the same time and I'll have cabbage and amaranth. Very twisty amaranth. But my Mina Robata, my jungle queen, I'm hoping will start giving me flowers as well. But things are definitely starting to slow down and give up the ghost. So it's nice to have a plan of what I'm going to be putting in and trying to figure out when I can put it in. I just need to try and find nice enough seeds. I am jealous of those that have a greater option. But that is all from me from now. I'm going to go home and make something with these lovely zinnia that I've cut today. If you want to see what I do with these, you can check out my Instagram, which is From the Witch's Garden. There's a link to that below this video. And I will see you guys next week. Bye! If you want to follow along and see how all of these do, remember to hit the subscribe button. Yeah.